Hi everyone, welcome back to Insights. It's David Purdon here from Diatec, and today we're going to be covering off a new addition to the BIM 360 platform called BIM 360 Docs. So as I said, my name is David Purdon. I'm a technical specialist from Diatec, and feel free to connect to me on Twitter at twitter.com/David_Purdon, and on LinkedIn at David-Purdon-03271816. So today's presentation is on BIM 360 Docs, which is a new platform tool on BIM 360 which relates to the central documentation storage of all digital data relating to projects, allowing the information to mature from design through to construction through to handover. So what we're going to see today is a brief introduction about BIM 360 Docs, where it sits in terms of the platform, how it interacts with existing Autodesk products, and we'll talk a little bit about the different versions and introduce you to the main web pages, as well as going over the various different aspects of the product. Further information, feel free to check out the links attached, and also feel free to, as I said, check out our Diatec website for more information regarding the platforms. So thanks for viewing, and I hope you enjoy the presentation. So without ado, let's get started. So Autodesk.com products BIM 360 Docs overview. So if you start on this page, you'll get a complete breakdown of the construction document management system, which BIM 360 Docs is. Now, what it will do is it will allow you to centralize all the documentation, 2D plans, 3D models, as well as all the specification and all other digital documentation. It will allow you to publish and create construction drawings directly from your digital design files. So if you're using Revit, for example, it will pull all the sheets and put them into the right version types and collate them. One of the nice features is the ability to share that information and pass it on to extended design team members, who have the ability to collaborate, view and mark up. And just recently introduced into the platform is the ability to add issues. Now the BIM360.com Docs website will allow you to start a free trial of the product. Now the free subscription will essentially give you 30 days of the full product, but it will revert back to the free version after those days unless you take the subscription. Now at the moment, there's not very much difference between the products. I'll explain the differences in a minute, but you have a single repository, access control, navigation, document modification, publishing, and viewing tools. Now, that's across both of them. Now, the main difference at the moment is with the free version, you have the ability to assign permissions to the top level only. On the paid version, you have the ability to assign permissions on a folder by folder basis and subfolder basis. Now, it says 249 per project on this at the moment, but come the end of July, first week in August, BIM 360 Docs will also be hosted in Europe. So for anybody who has concerns about Safe Harbour or Data Protection Act, they're actively at the moment setting up the European server. So I would highly recommend, feel free to try the trial and test out with some data, and come the end of July, start of August, coming into the next after the summer, you'll have the ability to store all your documentations on a European secured server. So this is Docs. Now, very simple interface. What we have at the top here is the ability, if you have the full version, to switch between different active projects. On the left, you have the ability to look at any plans, again from the architectural drawings, shop drawings, fabrication, any mechanical drawings, the main project file repository, and recycle bin. And the ability to switch from list to thumbnail, and the ability to upload files into the active folder. Top right corner, you have the profile, there's me, and your ability, if you're an admin for the account, or if you're a project admin, you can log in, and at this point you can add members to your team. Now, key thing about this is there are pre-configured, pre-baked roles, which I'll show you in a second. Now, I can add in different names to people, just made up names at this stage. I can add in, various different emails for different members of different design teams, and could be architect, architect.com, whatever I want. Now, once you've added the members, they will get an invitation to link to this web page where they'll be asked to log in and create an ID, normally an Autodesk ID. And if they haven't got it yet, you can resend it from here as well. So once you've added your members, the next thing you want to start doing is starting to lay out your folder structures. So one of the key questions we keep getting asked by customers is when are our Autodesk going to be coming up with something that relates to PAS 1182 in the UK and the common data environment. Now, this is where Autodesk are going with this. So under the project files, I can start to add in particular or specific repositories similar to those mentioned in the CDE documents for PAS 1182 and UK Level 2 mandate framework documents. So adding in work in progress, shared, then I can start to add in published, if I can spell it properly, and lastly but not least, archives. So again, just right clicking on project files, adding in my folders. Now I can then start to look at those folders and then break them down into subsequently subfolders again. So I can start adding in architectural folders, structural folders, MEP, building services, civil, whatever I want. So it's a very similar workflow to normal file-based, server-based file repositories. Now, you can build these up as you go along, or you can take your time to do it at the start. It doesn't really matter. Now, again, I can rename, I can upload, or I can add attributes to a particular folder. Now, I'll look at attributes in a minute. But first of all, let's look at permissions. Because I'm the contract admin, my default permission level is set to full. Now, if it's publish, I can upload files to the repository. If it's publish and view, I can view the files in the inbuilt viewing tools. If we move on to the next one, which is edit, I have the ability to edit any metadata that's attached to the platform that relates to the file itself. And then lastly, control means I control the version of the file, so I can overwrite it, and the ability to delete it. Now, so these are the pre-bake rules. So architect, so as I'm adding members to the project, rather than assigning it on a per user basis, I have the ability to assign it to particular roles. That means that any person I've assigned to the project as a member and assigned that particular role will take on this particular permission levels by default. So it's very straightforward. You just select the relevant folder, type in the name under roles or company, and then you just change permissions to suit. On the right hand side there, you'll notice that as I'm just moving across the bars, you have the ability to reset, or you can leave the permission set to inherit. Inherit means that the permissions have been set by the top level folder. So one of the things to be careful of is when you're assigning permissions, if you want the permissions to be specific, just make sure that you either remove the permission from the top level and assign it to the relevant subfolder, or leave it inherited. Now, that doesn't make much difference when you start looking at this shared folder where you can have information across multiple roles in different companies, but when you start to break down the permissions into things like the individual companies work in progress folders, or the shared and published and archive, published and archive folders, then you want to be very careful and specific about the permissions. Now, the good thing about it is I can go back at any point and change permissions. So, on the right here, we have a blank screen and we have a folder. Now, we're going to look at uploading files. So, I have some demo data. I'm going to start uploading to the repository. So, as I said, I can upload PDFs, 3D DWFs, and if I wanted to, even Revit files. AutoCAD drawing files, IFCs, Navis files, you name it. So all design file types are catered for. Very similar to the types of files you can upload to other cloud-based platforms that Autodesk have, like A360 for example. There's an inbuilt viewing tool called the Large Model Viewer, which is going to be standard across all the various different cloud platforms Autodesk have, which you'll be able to use to view information from within their cloud technology. So in the bottom right corner there, it's uploaded the file, but at the moment it's just processing it. Now, essentially what it's doing here is it's scanning the file, checking the validity of it, verifying its content, and then it's going to start creating thumbnails and things from it as well. So while I'm waiting for that, I'll just create a few different folders. So let's say we want a documentation folder, and from here I might decide to upload user guides, specification documents, health and safety checklist files, whatever I want. And again, it'll upload them as a batch. So again, the system doesn't lock down while it's going through one process. I'll have the ability to work on other folders and upload other files as it's going. So it takes a little bit of time depending on the size of the files and how many documents that you're uploading at any given time. But you know, it's probably best practice that if you have some data that you want to make public, do it as a batch and then just let it process away for a while. So here we have the two PDF documents, and you can see here it's just preparing for viewing. So just creating the views and the thumbnails, and from here I can check the version. So in this case, because it's the first upload, it's version 1, and I can left click on the radio boxes and I can apply a batch process to it, whether it be a batch download or a batch viewing, and a couple other ones which I'll show you there in a second. Now if you look at their names, for example, you'll see the little pencil comes up sometimes. Because I'm account admin, I can change the name of the file. Other people won't have that ability unless I've given them full control. So while I'm waiting, I'll just add up a few more files. So let's go into the design, detailed design drawings. And from here I can shift click, for example, or I can just single click to upload single or multiple files. So these are all just PDFs that were pulled from a Revit file. Now, if I haven't taken the courtesy of creating these sheets, I could just upload the Revit file into the plans folder, which I'll show you in a second, and actually get it to extract all the sheets and convert them into drawing files for me, or drawing sheets, sorry. So I'll give it a few moments there to process. So while I'm waiting, we'll just talk a little bit about what we can do next. So again, users, depending on permissions, have the ability, once the files are made public, again based on their roles, have the ability to download, view, and later on, if they have the ability, they'll be able to add things like markups, and a new tool that just came in recently is the ability to add issues to a sheet. So I'll just wait for them to finish, and then we'll start to move on to look at the viewing aspect. So I've pre-baked another one here, where I have the same folder structure, only difference is I've uploaded some of the files. So let's have a look in the work in progress. So these are the different disciplines, and these are the files after the thumbnail has been created. So let's have a look at one of them there. So I'll go into Kobe. I can have a mechanical Kobe file there, and in the architecture I have sheets in there. Documents, I have various different spec sheets, different drawing files, whatever I want. So again, I can specify where the information goes, and as in the project admin, as in the document controller permission, if there's a full file in the wrong repository, I have the ability to move it to the right repository as well. So there you go, there's the spec sheets that I put up a minute ago, and there are the various different files I've just put into a published folder. Now I could again segment that published folder and break them down into different document types, and again apply different permission levels to them as well. So it's pretty easy to navigate, and periodically it will refresh because it's constantly looking for updates and changes to the file structure. So let's click on have a look at one of these files. So click on this one here. Well, before I forget, when you're uploading and downloading files, there's a complete audit trail. So any changes to the repository are reflected in an audit trail in the background, which you'll be able to interrogate afterwards. In the plans, where we're looking at the documents at the moment, you have the ability to obviously upload the files, but you can also look at these things called title blocks. So let's say I have standard title blocks in my Revit files, which I've created DWF or multi-sheet DWFs or multi-sheet PDFs from. I can use the object character recognition in BIM 360 Docs to extract fields for filtering these documents. So on the left there are two standard ones, number and title. So I've just set the number 1 to the sheet number there, which is A001, and I've just set the title to the title of the sheet. So in this case it's site plan. Now essentially what we do is next to each of those there's a little pencil which will allow me to draw a square or a rectangle, and the character recognition will try and read the legibility of the document. Now if you want to add in your own custom fields, so let's say for project number, date, drawn by, checked by, scale, whatever you want, you would just click on add field and then do the same process. and you can create custom title blocks or variations for A1, A0, A3 for example. So what tends to happen is once you've uploaded those documents and you've applied your title block template, if I switch from say the thumbnail view to the list view, you'll see on the right hand side there I have number and title all extracted from the sheets. So like I said, if I extended that to drawn by, reviewed by, version type, any of the designations that might be on my sheet, then they will also be able to be filtered as well. So there are ways that you can add your own custom ones, which we'll have a look at there in a second, but it's quite a nice feature when it comes to different ways that you might want to collate and review your documents, for example. So again, switch back to thumbnail, and you can see here that these are the first versions of these files being uploaded to the system. Again, as I said, shop drawings primarily will be based for mechanical and structural types, where you can put in fabrication drawings directly from the 3D objects and the assembly drawings. So because it's a cloud-based platform, we also have the ability that you can view this on an iPad app, and you have the same visibility of information, same ability to view the model, same ability to use the sheet. So let's open the sheet. So here we have the sheet viewer, and we can just use the start normal pan and zoom, and again you can see that the image of the screen refreshes as you zoom in for clarity. We have tools at the bottom for turning on and turning off markups, checking for issues, which is a new facility in the product, and on the right hand side we can jump from sheet to sheet within the same directory. On the left we can view any existing markups in the drawing, any existing issues, and we can add our own markups. So again, depending on your permission levels and depending on your roles and responsibilities, so there's a role and responsibility for doc managers. So document managers can be notified of any changes of this, and there will be also project information managers, for example, could be reviewing these documents on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis. Any markups that have been assigned to a sheet are visible, again, depending on the permission levels you've been assigned to the rest of the team. So there you can see a permission or a markup's been added, when it was drawn and who it was drawn by. In this case it's me. Now I have the permission to open or close that markup. So again, activity wise, all that information is stored in the background and fully auditable. Now issues is a recent event, so some of the features aren't turned on yet, but essentially I'll be able to create an issue. So for example, if there was a problem with the design that I picked up that I don't have access to Revit or whatever program it was used, I can still look at the same sheets and I can raise issues with the rest of the design team. So there could be a problem with a column, there could be a problem with a wall. I would just drop in a tag, give it a title, description and the location, and then I can assign it to a specific member of my team. Now, because I haven't assigned any other members of my team yet, most of these options are grayed out, so for the moment I'll just add in a new markup around an area, just to kind of give me a reminder to come back and actually create an issue for that. So the key thing about issues is these will be things you want to bring to a specific person or specific role or company's permission or attention, whereas a markup can be placed just generically on the sheet, which you can then pass on through your normal methodology. Once you start to get to a level of maturity, again, having massive members of teams, for example, the issues become a very important part where you can target specific members of the team to make sure that their attention's being addressed to a particular problem. Again, you have an ability to view the history as well as open and close any markups that have been assigned to you or created by you. So, like I said, a clean way to pass on that information to the extended design team. I can turn on and turn off markups, all within the same window. So it's relatively straightforward, and like I said, there's a very aggressive development cycle for BIM 360 Docs, so there's going to be a lot more functionality in by the end of the summer, which will extend these tools. So you can see on these sheets, for example, on the one I just created there was 2 markups placed. So as you go through the documents, you'll see how other people interact with the documents. Once all the markups and stuff, for example, have been closed off, you can start passing information into the relevant other folders, like published, for example. So here we have a file in the published area, and I'm going to upload another version of it, essentially with the same name. So let's say from a workflow point of view, there's been a revision made to that file, and someone wants to bring that to my attention. So there's the file there. It's just a PDF extract from Revit of a new sheet being published. And as I upload it, just give it a moment to finish. What we'll see happen in a moment is that the version number will change to B2. Now, one of the nice features in terms of the version control is the ability of it having historical recording of the document in question. So for example, it does not delete the previous version, it just makes the latest version the current one. Now again, depending on whether you have been given the right permission levels, I have the ability to revert back to the previous one to make that current. But again, like I said, as you go through your versions and as your product or your project matures, you'll have the ability to look at all the historical. And there's a nice little feature, you're looking at the two sheets together of the same type, where you can compare changes on a document for before and after, for example. So in terms of 2D files, in terms of PDFs, TWFs, there's some nice workflow opportunities there for extending members of your team to view files, apply changes, or basically allow them to interact with the whole design process by interrogating those 2D drawings. So here I'm down. What I'm going to do in this area is I'm going to add a new attribute to the columns. So I'm going to create a drop-down list for the stage that these files are at. So this is a Revit file or Revit repository. I'm just putting in the different revision numbers. Now I could be pulling these off the title block, but just in case, I may want to add in my own manual ones, for example. So there's the file, and here I can turn on and turn off different attributes. I can turn on more, I can replace some of them, I can move different ones around, for example. So again, you can basically change where the permissions are placed. Again, I can move the columns, I can change the hierarchy. So it just takes a little bit more sometimes. I've got a smaller screen. Bear with me there, apologies for that. Sometimes when I have a smaller screen, it takes a while for me to select it. Let's go back in. Okay, just add that again. Be handy if I saved it. Okay. There we go. Just takes a little while sometimes to update. So what you can do is you can add metadata to files from within docs that you may not have stored on the actual files themselves. So you see, I'm just looking for this little drop down. There we go. So now I can change the stage of that document or that model. So I can say it's revision 0, revision 1, revision 2. Again, depending on my permission level, I have control permissions. I have the ability to add attributes to folders as well as files themselves. So there's a couple of little things we can do when we start to look at, say, for example, 3D models. So here we have a Revit file, straight out of Revit. This is the large model viewer, which you'll see in A360, A360 Team, and now in BIM 360 as well. Very clean model viewer. It's easy to kind of navigate around. Very standard tool set for navigation: pan, zoom, rotate, orbit, walk around. We have a nice little sectioning tool, which will allow you to change the axis of the section. So you can do it, vertical like so, or you can rotate the actual section. You can push and pull it. You go back down to the same area, for example. We can actually flip the axis. We can rotate around different points. So it's a nice little tool for people to actually view through the model without having to create custom views. And when they just want to have a quick peek at a specific area, so I want to just look at different floors in 3D, I can push and pull the section up and down through the site, through the model. So again, you can see it updates pretty quickly, and the same functionality also appears on the iPad and tablet apps. So here we can go into the properties browser and we can start to navigate around all the various different elements within the file. So I can highlight specific ones, grey out others, I can select individual elements within here and it will highlight them in the model. I can then break down to family types into individual instances, for example, and it's a good way to kind of zoom in on particular elements of the model. If we go to properties, we can see any metadata that's been attached to the object. So for example, I can go down here and start looking at any identity data like type, mark, keynote, model, manufacturer. So if I'm using, say for example in Revit, the Kobe plugin, I can be assigning all that Kobe data. All that will pass through to the model. Again, because it's stored within the Revit file, I can interrogate it from here as well. And again, I can just turn off the section and go back to my main view. So it's a great way for people who don't have access to Revit, who are extended members of your design teams and construction teams, to be able to interrogate the model at different stages. So as different discipline teams start to build their coordination and federation models, that can be put into these folders and docs at different stages, or updated periodically, and people can just check in on the actual progress of the model. So it's the same navigation tools as most of the Autodesk products. You have a navigation cube, for example. So again, it's not a huge learning curve to learn. The main power essentially is in the background, in terms of how the files are interoperable with each other, and how the versioning control is managed and how the permissions are managed. So again, just to kind of finalize on a few pieces here, there's a lot in this program already, and there will be a lot more coming in. So any particular sheets, like multi-sheet PDFs for example, you can go into different sheets. You can switch from sheet to sheet from the navigator at the bottom, so you don't have to go back out and back in again. And again, I can start looking through different elements, when the version was uploaded, who it was uploaded by. So again, there's a nice little audit trail. When you start looking at issues, for example, that'll be assigned to members, so there'll be an email trail and an audit trail between individual members as the project matures. So again, like I said, we have an IFC file here. So just to show you that it doesn't have to be just a standard AutoCAD or an Autodesk format. Here we have an IFC file. Again, switch view, and you can see the model viewer just interrogates it the same way. Now again, depending on how the IFC export has been done, you may have to tweak the settings in your design tool to get the relevant level of metadata out of the actual file. So if I bring an example, if I go to the model browser and scroll down, you can see this broken down by level, and then the element by level. And as I start clicking on different parts of it, for example, you see it hides out various different elements. I'm going to the properties of an element, for example, and we can just check how much information is being stored in it. So again, it has the source file, the layer, and the material types, for example. Again, depending on what was passed out through the IFC. So again, you may have to tweak a little bit of the settings just to get the relevant amount of information to pass through the IFC. And directly from Revit, there's a better kind of mapping process for mapping out metadata to the IFC format in terms of Kobe, for example. So just to kind of wrap things up, I'll just kind of cover off a couple of small things. It's a very easy tool to navigate around. Again, a structural engineer, for example, could be working just in their model, for example, without the need to look at the coordination file, and just wants to just double check and see what information is being passed through to the system. Again, extended design teams, engineers, for example, maybe just want to just verify specific things. So here we can see all the information being passed out from the structural program directly into the actual file, which is fully interrogate. You can fully interrogate within the platform. Again, like I said, without to kind of keep rehashing it, without the need to actually have the individual design tools on the system. Again, the same tool set is available in the iPad app, for example. So you can navigate individual elements, you can check their level, you can check the structural elements, if it's a structural file, architectural, MEP, the whole lot. Whatever is being stored in the elements themselves within the design file is fully accessible within the product itself. So I'm going to be doing another video of the BIM 360 docs in the next couple of weeks. This is just to really give you a kind of taste for where the platform is going. I think it's a really good tool at this moment in time for companies to actually mess around with, even just the free version, just to get a feel for it, upload some data, tweak around with it. Like I said, the full version, or the non-freemium version, shall we say, will be around about €249-279 mark, I imagine, and it comes out when it becomes hosted in Europe later on in the year. So thanks for watching. Appreciate your time, and like I said, reach out, and if any questions, feel free to ask. Thanks very much. Bye.